What's up YouTube, Jeff Beck again from SamyGuru.com, and today another very exciting Samsung video. Today we are going beast mode on the Galaxy Z Fold 7. I'm going to show you how to get the most out of your Z Fold 7 in terms of performance, battery life, making sure your phone is a little bit faster, little tweaks you can make here and there to improve the day-to-day speed, your multitasking, all those kind of things. Before we get into the video, I do want to remind you guys, if you haven't yet, make sure you check out our website, SamyGuru.com. If you haven't ordered the Z Fold 7 yet and you plan to, you can get in our mystery box program, still open for a few more weeks. All you have to do is order your device through our links. It's here on our page, our pre-order verification page. These are the links. You can get in on it for the Fold 7, Flip 7, Flip 7 FE, Watch 8, Watch 8 Classic, and the Watch Ultra 2025. Order through our link and then fill out the verification form. You'll get a free case, screen protector, cleaning kit, desktop phone stand, other randomly inserted goodies. We do this just to give back to the community and also help to fund our website and our videos. Basically a win-win. We use our affiliate revenue to ship the boxes. We cover the shipping costs, all the items, and we also make some profit from the affiliate revenue to keep making videos and sustaining the great coverage that we have over at Sammy Guru. Check that out below if you're interested. So I have a keep document here as always with a little picture-in-picture window, pop-up window on the Z Fold 7. Very useful to have that multitasking. And we're going to go through that shortly. But the first thing I want to talk about is reducing your animations and your touch and hold accessibility settings. So let's go into settings, scroll down to accessibility, and this is where you will find under interaction and dexterity, the touch and hold delay. Now, touch and hold delay basically is how long it will take before you touch and hold on the screen for that to be recognized as a continuous touch, which means basically, let's just go back here. If I long press on my icon, it takes 0.5 seconds for it to recognize that long press and give me the options that are attached to the app. So here, if I go set touch and hold delay, I usually change mine from short to very short. And of course, if you try it out, you'll see how long this takes. See, it didn't recognize it because I did only 0.29 seconds there. So now it's 0.3. When I touch this icon, it's just gonna recognize it a little shorter. It works best for me. I mean, it's not gonna be the best setting for everyone, obviously, but I find it to be very helpful when I'm navigating around on a daily basis. Now, the other thing you can set inside of accessibility settings are the animations, but you can also do this from developer options. You can change your animations and scale those down in here as well. But I highly recommend, it's a lot easier in my personal opinion, to do that from the developer options. And the way you do that is by going into About Phone and then going to Software Information. Once you're inside Software Information, you're going to repeatedly tap on the build number over and over again until it says you are now going to become a developer. Put in your pattern or your PIN, allow development settings, okay. And then it's going to turn on developer options, which are going to give you those options at the bottom of your settings on the left-hand side if you have your phone unfolded. So once you tap on that, you can scroll down to find your animation settings, and you can scale these down from the default, which is 1x window animation to 0.5, transition animation to 0.5, and animator duration to 0.5 as well. That's going to make your phone feel a lot faster when you're opening and closing windows. It's just going to seem like you're kind of zipping in and out of things a little bit faster. So combining that touch and hold delay, turning it down to the very short setting, and also scaling your animations back to 0.5x, it's going to make a big difference in your day-to-day navigation. Up next, let's talk about those multi-window settings. So if you go into your Galaxy Z Fold 7, scroll down to advanced features, you'll find the multi-window. It is the third setting down, and you want to turn on all of these various options. In my opinion, it makes everything a lot easier. Swipe for split screen, swipe for pop-up view, show multi-window menu with one window, and full screen in split screen view. So let me just explain what they do. Let me do the top two separately. Let me do these bottom two first. Show multi-window menu with one window. You guys will notice this little line that's right here. That's going to go away if I turn this off. That is the multi-window menu. So if I tap on that, it's going to let me take the application I'm in to a pop-up window. That's what this is. Or split screen. I can go split screen immediately, and of course I can always drag it back. But I always have this option even if I only have one window open. If you turn that off, you're going to have more than one window open to see the multi-window view. Now, full screen and split screen view, what this will do is once you do pop something into that split screen view, let's say I open this and I open X, you've now got these applications taking up the full screen. You don't see the top bar, you don't see the navigation bar or your task bar or anything. You're able to make full use of the Galaxy Z Fold 7 screen when you have both of these applications open in split screen view. These top two options, swipe for split screen view and swipe for pop-up view, that's actually how I got this right here. So let me expand this back to full screen. This is my Google Keep Notes application that I'm using for the video. If I want to swipe this to pop-up view, I just go to the top corner, swipe that down, and it becomes a pop-up window, which I can then minimize. I also highly recommend you choose this setting right here, which is off by default. This leaves you with the top window bar open, kind of like a Windows PC, where you can minimize, expand, or close, something I always use when I'm doing pop-up windows. Now you can also do swipe for split screen. Swipe for split screen basically allows you to swipe 2 fingers from the side of the bottom of the main screen or the bottom of the cover screen to change split screen view. So you can just go 2 fingers over. This one's a little tricky behind the camera. Let's see if I can get it. Swipe with 2 fingers. There we go. Split screen view. So you swipe with 2 fingers over. You can also do it from the bottom. I always find when the phone is unfolded, it's a little bit easier to do it from the side versus the bottom. On the cover screen, it's probably a lot easier to do it from the bottom. So you can mix and match, but it works with both. I like to have all 4 of these open because it gives me maximum flexibility with my multi-window and multitasking navigation. Up next, let's talk about remapping your side button. So if you go into advanced settings again, you will find the side button. It's down here, the 5th option. The side button, basically you can remap the double press, which will let you change it from your camera to any application, a mode or routine, open the voice recorder or the flashlight. But some people also do not care for having Gemini as the default long press, and you can actually change this to either Bixby or powering off the device, which is what a lot of people want when they press and hold the side key, to just go directly into the power off menu. That way you don't have to hold any combination with the power button and the volume buttons. You can go directly from there. Now, if you like Gemini, of course you can leave it, but you can also always just use your voice to trigger Gemini or go into the Gemini app. There's a lot of other shortcuts you can use within GoodLock, and I'll talk about those in a future, more advanced video. Of course, if you are a Samsung loyalist and you want to go with Bixby, you can also replace your Google Assistant, your Gemini Assistant with Bixby. You can even use ChatGPT if you go in here and you have ChatGPT installed. I haven't installed it yet, but ChatGPT and Perplexity can also be used in place of Gemini as your default AI assistant on the Galaxy Z Fold 7. Let's talk about cover screen mirroring. So I talked about this in my first 10 things to do video. If you go into your settings, there's a couple of things we need to talk about when it comes to display as well as the cover screen mirroring, which I just mentioned. Let's talk about these display options first. There's quite a few display options in here that you might want to look at. The first one obviously is your dark mode, but that's probably something you set up during your original setup of the phone. But you may want to turn on the extra brightness setting, because what extra brightness does for you, as you guys notice, is if you don't have the auto brightness on, you guys can see I don't have auto brightness on. I usually do that for the video, but it gives you an extra little brightness boost no matter what if you don't have adaptive brightness set. I always have that on, so if I want to manually adjust brightness, particularly if I'm outside, you'll notice that this comes in handy. Eye Comfort Shield, you can set this up on a schedule if you would like, so that at nighttime, this will automatically turn on. Sunset to sunrise, it'll automatically turn on. And that basically means that you'll be able to, at night when you're reading in the bed, if you read a book with your Z Fold 7, it'll automatically turn on and give you that blue light filter. Screen mode, you can change it from vivid to natural if you prefer more muted colors. Samsung has more poppy colors kind of by default. Font size and style, if you need to turn that up or down. You can also download additional fonts. There's some preloaded ones, but you can get more from the Galaxy Store if you're interested. A lot of free ones that Samsung offers, but there's also some paid, trying to get me to add Galaxy Store. There's also some paid fonts that you can download it as well if you're interested. Edge panels, you can go in and turn these on. The panels are only the app panels by default, so if you want all of these, you really have to go in and turn them on. They used to all be there by default, but no longer. You only have the app panel by default. You can also control where the handle appears, the transparency, the size, the width, and you can also choose the color. So if you wanted to appear red, like I did right there, you can certainly do that to make it a little bit easier to see. And you can also choose if this is shown only on the main screen, the cover screen, or both. I personally like to have it on both because I do use Smart Select a lot, and I just pull this over here and trigger Smart Select, or AI Select, as Samsung now calls it. The other things from within here that you might want to look at is screen timeout. I always have mine set to 2 minutes because when I make videos, I don't want it to go off immediately when I'm in a video. Navigation bar, choose your buttons or swipe gestures. make sure circle to search is on, and continue apps on the cover screen. I always continue apps on the cover screen just because why not? Whenever I go from one to the other, I always want to continue apps on the cover screen. Accidental touch protection, touch sensitivity. If you have a screen protector on, this is a very, very useful feature. Definitely recommend having that. And the taskbar, which we can talk more about later, but you can choose between 2, 3, or 4 apps when you swipe up your taskbar, the number of recent apps that you'll see right there. And you can also choose to auto hide or stay on screen when you open apps. You can always swipe up to access it anytime that you're interested. Now, in terms of cover display mirroring, when you go to home screen, that's where you'll see cover screen mirroring. I highly recommend turning this off because by default, it is set to on. And if you have it set to on, it's not going to let you customize your main display and your cover display separately. So basically, when I go to my cover display here, you guys will notice I have a completely separate wallpaper, lock screen, everything on my cover display versus my main display. If I have cover screen mirroring on, they're both going to be exactly the same. And of course, you're going to want a different setup for your big screen versus your smaller screen, probably different apps, maybe different widgets, etc. So definitely recommend setting that to off, and then you can customize them separately. All right, guys, so now let's talk about battery and device care. You can basically set up your Galaxy Z Fold 7 to automatically restart to make sure that you're getting optimal performance at all times. If you go into the settings and scroll down, you'll find device care right here under digital well-being. Tap on that. There's a couple of things that you'll want to do here. The first thing is the auto optimization. So if you go into auto optimization, tap on auto restart, and what this will do is it will automatically restart your device at a time that you choose. Ideally, I like to use restart on a schedule and then choose a time that I'm not using the phone. So I'm not going to be using the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning because I'm usually not up at 3 o'clock in the morning. You can choose a time for you. Obviously, if you work a night shift or something, choose a time when you're definitely not going to be using your device. It'll automatically restart the device, which will kind of clear out some of that stuff that's in the background, your background apps, make sure everything's starting fresh. Doing this once a week can really help your device, and it's something I definitely recommend doing. Once you do that, you also want to decide if you want to utilize the performance profile as standard or light. The standard profile gives you the optimal performance for everything, but it does eat a little more battery life. Light prioritizes battery life and cooling over processing speed. I don't find the need to use this on the Z Fold 7 just yet, but if you are having battery life issues, it's something you can definitely consider. Next, if you want to turn on the RAM Plus option, and I actually advise against using RAM Plus because I've never really found any amazing benefits from it. Some people say there's some benefit to using certain values, but you can find RAM Plus in here. Uses your storage space for virtual memory. You can actually add an additional 12 gigabytes of memory, so all the way up to the amount of physical RAM that your device has. If you have a 1 terabyte Galaxy Z Fold 7, you'll be able to use 16 gigabytes because that has 16 gigs of RAM. Now, personally, I don't think there's any reason to turn it up or down. I've always left it to the default, never noticed anything. Some people say that if you turn it down to around the 4 gigs option, that kind of gives optimal performance. But if you do change this, you do need to restart your phone. So I would say play around with this, but I've never noticed any tangible benefit here or there. But some people like to utilize it. Maybe if you are a really heavy multitasker or gamer, this might be something that you want to do and see what works best for you. Next, let's talk about labs. So you have a couple settings in the advanced features that are beta features. Samsung calls them labs features. It's the second option inside advanced features. There's a couple of things that I turn on here. The first one is multi-window for all apps. This allows all of your windows to open up in pop-up view or split screen, even if the app itself doesn't support it natively. You can also turn on landscape view for portrait apps. You can turn this on for any ones that you might want to use. For instance, media apps and things like that, YouTube, you might want to turn this on, YouTube Music, something like your Reddit app like Relay, anything where you might want to view it in landscape, maybe even Asana, which I use for my task manager to get a good look at our idea boards and things like that for our Sammy Guru articles. Dark mode apps, the only one that really exists right now is YouTube. That just saves some battery. It keeps YouTube in dark mode all the time. Not really super useful for that particular option. This one is new with One UI 8 and the Z Fold 7. Backswipe preview basically shows you your preview of your previous screen when you do a short backswipe. I'll show you guys really quickly in Chrome on my website. If you do backswipe preview on and you're on a specific page, so let's say we go to an article page. Let me go to an article page here on Sammy Guru. If I do the backswipe gesture and it works, you should see a preview of the previous page. You'll notice it doesn't work on every single page. And it is still a little buggy. That's why it's a labs feature. But I did see it work in some instances with our website. So you may see it work sometimes in Chrome. Hopefully Samsung will eventually formalize this and it will become a full-fledged feature. But if you really do like living on the edge of One UI 8 and you want to experiment with this a little bit, you can certainly turn on backswipe preview and it will work in certain apps as well as in the Samsung Internet browser if you like to use that over Chrome. Next is bright mode for videos. So if we go into the settings here and we scroll down, you'll see under advanced features, this is a very simple one. Video brightness, you want to change this from normal to bright to get that full screen brightness when you watch HDR videos in YouTube or Netflix. You can choose the apps you want to run this in, Video Player, Google TV, and YouTube. I don't think I installed Netflix because I just set up this ZFold 7 recently, got this review unit and set it up. But you can set it up in Netflix as well once you install that application, as well as your other streaming apps. Also make sure you turn on Super HDR because that automatically will adjust the display to show the full range of colors and contrast with photos that are taken with your Galaxy devices. So S25 Ultra, Z Fold 7, any modern Samsung phone, you'll be able to get those extra rich colors. One thing I highly recommend if you want to get the most out of your new Z Fold 7 is the new adaptive lock screen clock in One UI 8, because this is really a distinctive feature that you're not going to see on any other device out there. If you go into the lock screen clock editor by long pressing, you'll notice if you choose this second clock option, it's got a little animating clock. Some people will notice though that this doesn't really work perfectly. Even if you choose, for instance, you're supposed to be able to do it with either of these two styles. It's supposed to adapt to any photo of a person or an animal that has the main subject kind of in focus and not much going on in the background. But for me, it doesn't always work, but I found a trick that allows it to work the majority of the time. The way you have to do this, basically, let's go into wallpapers here. What I'll do is I'll choose this wallpaper of this snow leopard, and I'm going to apply one of Samsung's frame effects at the bottom. And this usually will allow the clock to automatically work with the adaptive methodology that I was talking about. So if you apply the hard effect, whatever, you can see now it's adapting. So now if I go in here and edit it, and I move it around, you see it adapts to the ears of the snow leopard and the cutout that I've put there. Now, it seems even if you do this from the wallpaper editor, once you take away the effect, it then works. I don't know if this just is because it doesn't work with the touch and hold effect on the lock screen edit. Maybe you have to go into the wallpapers and apply the wallpaper new. It just doesn't work when you edit the lock screen clock. But there's some bugs, but this always seems to work very well if you do apply the frame. You can then unapply the frame if you want, and then it still seems to work just fine. So if I go back here and I remove the frame, let's see. And now it's going to still work, no problem. It's still adapting to the snow leopard. You can still see that it's basically working as intended. And you can see the color changes to adapt to the colors on your wallpaper to make it look as good as it possibly can. Definitely recommend checking this out. It's a really cool feature that Samsung added. Hopefully they work out some of the bugs as well in the future. Now let's talk about changing the app grid size. Now Samsung did something very confusing here. If you go long press on your home screen, go to settings, there used to be an option on the main screen to change your app grid size and your home screen grid. That means changing the number of apps that you can have in a row here and changing the number of apps you can have in a row in your app drawer. However, for some reason, Samsung removed this on the main screen with One UI 8. I have absolutely no idea why. However, if you do want to change the app screen grid and the home screen grid, you can still do so on your cover screen by long pressing, going to settings. You see these settings are here. So home screen grid, you can change it to 5x6. And with the app screen grid, you can change this from 4 columns, which is the default, to 5 columns, which is what I have. Now, the thing that I'm wondering is, if you change the home screen grid from 4x6 to 5x6, it does mess up the aspect ratio of some of the widgets with One UI 8. Samsung still has not fixed this bug from One UI 7. So perhaps they removed this option from the main screen because they didn't want to have all the widgets looking in a really funky aspect ratio. Maybe they'll fix this in a future One UI 8 update, but I would really like the option, if Samsung is watching this video, to bring back the number of total rows or columns that you can expand inside the app screen to be a little bit larger. Because on this large screen, I'd like to have a few more apps per row, have more columns here. a little more density for the applications, because I usually do have a lot of apps on my phone once I have it fully loaded up. But anyway, just be aware, you can't do that right now on the main screen. Now, if we go back into the home screen settings, the other thing I highly recommend that you turn on or make sure it's on is swipe down for notification panel. This makes sure that you can swipe down anywhere on the home screen to get your notification panel. Very useful on a phone that has this really large display. And then also rotate to landscape mode. This basically means that on the home screen, if you rotate your device, it's going to rotate your home screen into landscape mode as well. Now, the one thing that you do have to be aware of is that if you turn that on, you guys notice that I just made this mistake, you do have to have it on auto rotate. Otherwise, even if you turn that setting on, it won't do anything. But if you do turn that setting on and also have auto rotate on, it looks absolutely beautiful. And the One UI 8 landscape orientation is really, really nice for productivity on a big phone like the Z Fold 7. Let's talk about Galaxy Eye features. You want to make sure that you go in and turn on all the Galaxy Eye features you're interested in. Go into the settings. Each of these needs to be enabled separately, and some of these have settings that you can tune, like translation. You can choose to mute your voice or the other person's voice. You also need to make sure you turn on writing assist, interpreter, all these things. Tap to talk when you're using interpreter. Make sure that's on if you want to use your phone as an interpreter if you're going to another location. Transcript assist, auto transcribe voice recordings. It'll automatically do that if you record a voice recording. Photo assist, drawing assist, all of these need to be turned on. Now brief, you want to make sure you go in here, go to content to include. There's a few things that are switched off just to get the maximum benefit out of your now brief. I definitely recommend turning on everything. And then if you see something that you don't want or you don't use, after a few days, you can go back and turn that off. Also, if you go into your phone app, go into the settings over here, you're going to find that on the Galaxy Z Fold 7, there's a brand new option called Call Captions. Call Captions will give you captions for your calls. If someone you're talking to is in a noisy area or they're talking very quietly, you can see exactly what they're saying on the screen so you don't have to strain to hear what's going on in that call. So make sure you turn on all the features you want. Of course, if you don't want something, leave it off, but just double check. All these features now come, and Samsung has said that Galaxy Eye will remain free forever. So take advantage of these things. You're buying a $2,000 phone, make sure you get the absolute most out of that. Game Booster, if you're a big game fan, if you are a gamer and you're going to be using that a lot with your Galaxy Z Fold 7, go into advanced features, go into Game Booster settings, and make sure you turn on the things that you're interested in. For instance, performance for game optimization, I always turn that on. You now can choose your gaming motion smoothness up to 120 Hertz. Customizations for individual games, once you install them, will appear here. You can make sure you have everything tuned exactly the way you want it. Where to access the standard game panel, shortcut bar is what I like to have. You can reorder your tools as they will appear in the game. You can also choose to block Bixby, blocks the Edge panel, and block auto brightness. Edit pop-up apps, you can add various apps here to the pop-ups while you're in game mode. Save power during touch protection, reduce the frame rate for games while touch protection is active. It's probably not something you're going to use a lot, but it's good to have it enabled just in case it's something that you want. And you can also determine if you want to have notifications available from Game Booster or not, and play with your screenshot resolution and format. So Samsung has added a lot here. Also, if you use a USB PD charger, you can turn this on to prevent overheating. You can bypass the battery when using a power delivery charger, and that'll make your gaming experience a little more enjoyable and also be able to keep your device powered as you continue playing. Sound quality and effect options. So if we go in here and then search for sound quality and effects, you will find under sound quality and effects down here in sounds and vibration, you'll see right here, you have to tap allow for it to connect and find nearby devices. A couple of things I recommend turning on here: Dolby Atmos. Equalizer, you can play with this to your own. I like to have bass boost turned on because I listen to a lot of hip hop. Depending on the type of music you listen to, you can turn on the various presets, or you can tune each of the individual equalizer tuners yourself. You don't have to use the preset. Boost dialogue makes it easier to hear voices in videos. Again, if they have background noise in the background, it makes it easier to hear. Loudness normalization, this is a big one. You can make it so that all of your music apps basically have the normal volume, so they're all normalized to one particular median, instead of having some apps that are a lot louder than others. For instance, YouTube Music is usually a lot louder than Spotify, I've noticed with all of my headphones. So I turn this on, and you can even go to app sound settings And once you have the individual apps there, you can tune them. So if you press and hold the volume media slider in the quick panel while using a media app to change the app sound settings, and those will be saved. So if you want to do this for Spotify, YouTube Music, etc., you can do it for each individual one. All you have to do is press on the volume slider here when you're using those applications, and you'll be able to set those for each individual app. Then Adapt Sound, what this does is Adapt Sound gives you perfect sound tuned for your ears. You can use this for, depending on your age. You see for 30 years old, boost higher frequencies, and 30 to 60 year old boost high mid frequencies. So basically, as your hearing gets worse as you go on, you can tune this to your preferences. You can also determine which ear you're going to use for calls, and also your sound preference that you have, clear versus soft. Maybe if sharper sounds bother you or something like that, you can go ahead and turn this to soft. And you can actually get a preview once you connect your headphones to make sure the settings are exactly as you want. You can also determine if you want to do Adapt Sound only on media, only on calls, or both. My final suggestion to put your Galaxy Z Fold 7 fully into beast mode is to download Good Lock from the Galaxy Store and make sure you download the One Hand Operation Plus module. Now, first of all, One Hand Operation Plus can be downloaded separately from Good Lock, but I highly recommend downloading the entire Good Lock suite. This is made by Samsung, and it is a suite of apps to bring your Galaxy experience to the next level. If you subscribe to my channel, we cover all of these applications, so you'll be able to get a full tour of everything that Good Lock has to offer. But One Hand Operation Plus is one that you absolutely need, even if you don't want to use all the other Good Lock installations and modules. So once you install One Hand Operation Plus, what this will let you do is it will let you get 2 new handles on the left and right of your device that let you get triggers for various things. So if you go into the left handle, what I typically do is I will set the long swipe to various tools that I use so I can have easy access to them. For instance, I can have a task switcher, straight right. If I do a long straight right, it's going to give me a task switcher over here, so I don't have to swipe up and hold to get into my task switcher. Diagonal up, I can have my quick launcher, which is one I do like, get into all of my apps. Or diagonal down, I can now set this to be pretty much anything that I want. One that I really do like is the quick tools, which gives me all my toggles, my volume, my brightness, everything that I need. Now, of course, if you don't want one of these, there's actually tons of these that you can utilize. There's so many options here to go through. A lot of times I'll use AI Select. It'll automatically launch AI Select so I can use it to crop portions of my screen. You can do this for both the left handle and the right handle, and you can do short swipe and long swipe. So technically you can have 6 options per side, 12 options total. Now you can customize the size, the width, the position of these handles, and the color. You can do whatever you want, basically unlimited customization. And I will cover this more in a future video. This is an app that really has unlimited possibilities. I'll drop a couple of my previous videos on this one below if you want to check it out. Anyway, I appreciate you guys sticking with me. That was probably close to a 30-minute tutorial on putting your Galaxy Z Fold 7 into beast mode. If you guys enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification icon for future videos like this. Check out the website, sammyguru.com. If you haven't already ordered your Galaxy Z Fold 7, get in our mystery box program, order through our link, and submit your verification form by July 25th to claim the mystery box. I do appreciate you guys checking out this video, and of course, I will see you in the next one.